Hey Osmo Pocket 4P, I heard you have 17 stops of dynamic range. Is that true?
Uh-huh.
Wow, that's impressive. Would you like to make a video with me? Awesome, that would be great. And by the way, I'm your favorite YouTuber, right? What? Okay, well if I'm not your favorite YouTuber, then who is? Really? Jake Sloan? Come on! For the past couple of years, there's one camera we have been using more than any other, and it's the Pocket 3. The Pocket 3 is so versatile, so small, so easy to bring along, and it's got so many great accessories that you really couldn't beat it until now. This is the Osmo Pocket 4P, and it is the next generation of pocket cameras from DJI. I think this is going to be our go-to camera for the next couple of years, and I'm super excited to tell you about it. The first thing you'll notice is the dual lenses. Now, as someone who's been using the Pocket 3 for several years now, zooming in was never really an option. You could do a digital zoom in, you could actually get closer to the subject, but now you can zoom in with a native telephoto lens built into this camera. The main lens is a 20mm equivalent with an f2.0, and the zoom lens is a 60mm equivalent with an f1.8, which is really the sweet spot for portraiture. You get some nice blurry backgrounds using both of these lenses, but especially on that zoom when you get into it. Where that zoom comes in handy is so many places. First of all, if something's far away and you want to bring it in a little closer, the zoom is great. Second of all, if you're filming an event or something like that and you don't want to be in people's faces with the camera but still want to capture great moments, that 60mm zoom lens is a game changer. And third of all, that ability to zoom just makes your videos more cinematic and more interesting to watch. So the 20mm lens, that is the main lens as I'll call it, is an f2.0 with 17 stops of dynamic range. If you're shooting with this thing in low light and a lot of contrast, you're going to be able to capture amazing footage. And it really does seem like this is going to challenge a DSLR on a larger gimbal, because the stabilization, DJI knows that so well from their drones and from their other gimbals, that is rock solid. Also, you're getting that beautiful dynamic range so that you can capture detail in challenging light conditions. And finally, the 1-inch sensor just looks beautiful in both bright and dim light. Now this camera features D-Log and D-Log 2, which allows you to shoot in a variety of conditions, from nighttime shooting to high contrast situations to things where you might lose detail in the background. You can go in after the fact, do a little bit of post-production and color correction. It's amazing what you can do. So in here, you can see that there is a shadowy area over here on the workbench, and there's a very bright area outside. How much difference does the color correction make when you're shooting in D-Log 2? Also, if you want to zoom in, you can only do it in the normal color profile or in D-Log 1 or D-Log. If you're in D-Log 2, the zoom does not work and you might miss the shot, so just keep that in mind. So of course this camera shoots natively in 4K, but one thing that's upgraded is its ability to shoot slow motion in 4K 240 frames per second. At that slow rate, you can capture so much detail in very fast action that it kind of makes things look almost science fiction-like. Drops of water hitting the ground, people playing sports, people diving into the water. All of these situations now can be captured at 240 frames a second, and it just makes your videos really, really stand out because you see all that detail as something's happening that quickly. And of course, because it's DJI, the active tracking and the automation on this camera is amazing. You can literally click twice on a subject on the screen and it will lock in on that subject and follow it very, very well. This allows you to not worry about panning and tilting the camera to keep your subject framed and then move where you want to move as a cinematographer and let your subject do what they're going to do, and they can stay right in the center of the frame. So we just did a test comparing the Osmo Pocket 4P to the Osmo Pocket 3, doing some tracking, and they both did pretty well up until the point that I went behind a tree. The 4P was able to grab me immediately as soon as I came out from behind the tree, but the 3 struggled a little bit. It did find me after a few seconds, and then it lost me one time. So even though the 3 is pretty accurate, the 4P is even more accurate and locks on and grabs you after you walk out from behind something. And again, because this camera has a 3-axis mechanical gimbal, you are getting so much stabilization that when you're walking fast, when you're running, all of those things are going to look very, very smooth using this camera, which makes your shots, again, look cinematic and really brings up the quality of your production. Of course, you can also do photos with this camera, 37 megapixels, and they look amazing. It's funny because I rarely use this as a still camera, but when I do, I'm always amazed by how good it looks. And especially if you use some of the automated features where it stitches it all together for you, those shots look amazing too. So don't forget, this is a great still camera in addition to being an amazing video camera. So there's 2 flavors of panorama on the Osmo Pocket 4P. There's the 3x3, where it takes a total of 9 pictures, and then there's the 180-degree mode where it takes 4 pictures side by side and stitches them all together. However, if you're moving around in the frame, things could get a little crazy. Take a look. Now, of course, DJI has upped the ante with a lot of new features in this that weren't in the Pocket 3. For example, they've upped the internal storage to 103 gigabytes. So if you put a 256 card or even a 128 card in here, along with that 103 gigabytes of internal storage, you can shoot all day and you won't run out of card space. Also, the transfer rate from that internal storage is very, very fast if you have the appropriate cable. So shooting to the internal storage actually is looking better and better because you can transfer the footage so quickly. One important note, if you want the fastest copying available, be sure you're using a fast cable and you're connected directly to the camera, not through the battery, because if you connect through the battery, it won't be as fast. One other thing that I appreciate about the Osmo Pocket 4P is that the Pocket 3 battery will work on the bottom of it. They're cross-compatible. So if you have some Pocket 3 batteries just like this around, you can use them with your Pocket 4. The tripod is the same. A lot of backwards compatibility between some of these accessories, but then there's also some new accessories. One of my favorite new accessories is this little light that it comes with. Now this light is an LED with different color temperatures, so you can make it more warm or more cool depending on the background and the environment you're in. But you don't have to charge it because the power actually comes from the camera. And it's super easy to put on the camera. All you do is put it on the side, it's got a magnet, and you just set it on the gimbal right here. And then when you turn the camera on, the camera will turn on as normal. You can tilt this and adjust it up and down. You power it on by tapping the top button here like this, and there's different levels of brightness, kind of a dimmer, a medium, and the brightest. And then you hold down the button to turn it off. And then if you want to make the color temperature warmer, all you do is just push this button on the left and it turns it to warm, and that turns it back to cool. Very, very simple operation, which I love about it. And by the way, if your gimbal gets a little out of whack like this, you just double tap the joystick and it straightens right back up. Not only is this little light super easy to use, innovative, doesn't require any charging, but it also gives the camera kind of a cool look, and it looks like some kind of little sea creature as it's going through the dark and getting its shots. One other really cool thing is how small it folds down. When you fold it in, it's literally just, I don't know, a little bit bigger than a battery. It's just tiny and it fits right into your case, and so you can have it with you all the time and you don't have to worry about whether you charged it or not. As long as your camera's got juice, this thing has juice. And much like the Pocket 3, the Osmo Pocket 4P does work with DJI mics natively. You don't need a receiver on the camera, which is so amazing because you can actually use 2 mics at the same time. So if you're doing an interview, a walk and talk, a conversation, anything like that, you can have the 2 mics going and recording to the camera. Or if you're just doing a single on person like I am right now, you can use a single mic and that will capture all the audio very clearly and from a pretty good distance. Now, I'm not going to get into too much about the different mics because you can use it with the Mic 2, the Mic 3, and I think some of their other mics. But some of the microphones, including the Mic 3 here, have internal recording as well. So if there was any dropout in connection between the mic and the camera, which I've rarely seen, you can actually get the recording recorded internally on the mic so you can capture it and sync it up later. Now, when I first saw this camera, I kind of already knew about the light, I already knew about the microphone, but I didn't know about this little guy. This is a dedicated remote control that will operate this camera remotely, as the name implies. This thing works over Bluetooth, I believe. It pairs to the camera. It allows you to pan and tilt using the joystick here. It allows you to start and stop recording, but this is also a touch screen, so you can go in and change parameters. And instead of having to use your phone with an app, which is still an option, you can use this to do most things. And it's so nice that you have the ability to just use this remote and not have to tie up your phone and get the kind of shots you want to get. As a matter of fact, a lot of times, again, event photography and event videos, if you put the camera down somewhere and you use the remote, at a wedding or at a corporate event, that's the best kind of shots, is when people don't realize they're being filmed and they're just genuinely having a good time and they have a genuine smile. One thing that DJI has done that is amazing is when you have this remote paired with this camera, you don't lose the feed on the camera. In other words, sometimes in the past, you could only see it on one device or the other, whether it was your phone or the camera. Now with the remote, you can actually see the image on your camera as well as on the remote, which is awesome if you're working with a team. One little word of caution about the remote that I learned the hard way is if you're doing a time lapse or a hyperlapse using the remote, and you put it in your pocket, the joystick will actually make the camera move. So you could mess up your shot by accidentally moving the joystick during a hyperlapse. So just keep that in mind and don't put it back in your pocket while you're filming a hyperlapse, and everything should be good. And much like the camera, the remote has a little space for a lanyard like this that you can put around your wrist. So if you're out doing something like jet skiing or doing some kind of activity where you might drop the thing and you don't want it to land in water, it's great to have this little lanyard on it. So I said at the beginning that we used the Pocket 3 a lot over the last couple of years, and that is absolutely true. One of the biggest things I would get from clients is, what is that? What does that do? How does that work? And why is it so small? I think a lot of people, when they saw it, were a little bit skeptical of what the quality of the video would be. They always thought it was really cool because of the gimbal and because of the way it looks, it's very unique. But they would always wonder, why aren't you shooting with a bigger camera? The biggest challenge I think I'm going to run into with this camera is going to be the perception that this is a toy, because this is not a toy at all. This is very much a creator's camera that can be used for corporate stuff, could be used for event video, could be used for YouTube. So many things that you could do with this professionally, and then also just a fun camera to have around when you're on trips and stuff like that with your family. So to say that I am in love with the Osmo Pocket 4P would be an understatement. This camera is seriously the coolest camera I've ever owned, and I am so looking forward to creating with it for the next couple of years. I'd love to know your thoughts about the Osmo Pocket 4P. Leave a comment below and we'll be sure to get back to you. Thanks for watching Ready Set Drone, and look for a lot more great content about and using the Osmo Pocket 4P.